Today is July 14th, 2023. Happy Bastille Day. Today we'll be talking about a little bit about MMTLP, next hydrocarbons. If you don't know what Bastille Day is, it's the day that the French decided to storm the Bastille, which was a prison that was held by by the king. He held his political prisoners in there, and of course, once the French Revolution started, of course, they emptied out the jails. So that's the first thing that they do. Anyway, this video is entitled "I'm Back, I Think," and the reason is I had COVID for a while, so that sucked. I was not feeling well, but I can kind of talk now, so we're at the talking point, I guess. I hadn't been sick since before like 2019, and during the pandemic, I went through a combination of like vitamins, avoiding crowds and all that, and it looked like I was gonna survive the whole thing without getting COVID. Knock on wood, that's what I was thinking, and it turned out not to be the case. So eventually stuff happens, right? And on the plus side, I think I lost some weight thanks to COVID. In any case, I took vitamins, stayed hydrated, rested, all that. So thank you for all the kind words and all the encouragement from everyone out there. I really appreciate that. I'm thinking it must be in God's plan that I should survive this, so here I am. This will be a fairly quick video. I'm mostly recovering, but still recovering. There's been a lot to go over in the MMTLP space since my last video, so I will not be going over that. There's just too much to go over. Instead, I'm going to be showing you some insights I had when I looked at Russ Race's data. I hope you find it interesting. I'm not a financial advisor, by the way. This is not financial advice, of course. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Thanks. This is Russ Race's data that he uploaded to justretail.investors.com. It's a subset of that website. Of course, it's on page ID. It's on page _ID equals 25, and he's got the survey results there, right? It's got total number of shares counted, total number of accounts reported, as 6,500 accounts reported, 43 million shares. It's a good breakdown, but the interesting thing is he's got a little link over here. It says shares per broker. Let's click the link and see what happens. This might take a little bit of time, but we click the link and we'll see. Maybe we need to click it again. It seems to be loading. Okay, so here we have the shares that is a breakdown of the survey per broker. It's listed alphabetically right now, which is a meaningless way to list it. I'd like to list it in terms of the importance of the broker, the brokers that have the most number of shares in the survey. So we see here a whole bunch of shares. TD Ameritrade, of course, has 13 million shares reported according to the survey. So, as is my want, I tend to like to look at things in a spreadsheet, so I created a spreadsheet out of this data, right? Instead of showing 10 entries, you can show like 100 entries or so. You get a whole bunch more. Anyway, so I put this into a spreadsheet so that I can do some math on it. I like to do math. So, as we see here, TD Ameritrade has the most number of shares in the survey. This is about 30% of all the shares that has been reported in the survey. 13 million shares reported at TD Ameritrade, right? 8 million shares reported at Fidelity, and that's about 18% of all the shares, right? As we can see, most of the shares, if you were just to take the top, top 15 shares or so, all the way up to JP Morgan, you're probably got about over 90% of all the shares. Everything else is a very small number. It's less than 1%, and in some cases it's so small it can't even be counted, right? But these are the shares that are reported, and if we add them all up, it's 43 million, of course, right? That's nice, but I'm really curious as to what the total long position is at each broker, right? That's what I'm really interested in. So towards that end, we look at the total survey results, right? We know that 43 million shares have been counted for, and we're estimating that there's in total 400 484 million shares, 485 million shares that are estimated, right? So we're saying that there's about 9% of all the shares have been reported in the survey, right? So if 9% of the shares are accounted for in the survey, we can extrapolate and figure out what the long position is per broker, right? So I created another column over here. What did I do? Which is weird. Okay, so I created another column over here, and this is the long position, right? So we take this simple 9% that's reported here, right? And if we take the number of shares that's in the survey and we just divide by the estimated survey percentage of the shares that are counted, which is 9%. So if we divide, for instance, 13 million by 9%, we get about 147 million shares. That's the estimated long position at TD Ameritrade. This is how many shares TD Ameritrade owes, right? But we do, which is good to know, right? We also know from an earlier posting that TD Ameritrade, we believe, has a allocation from the DTC of 53 million shares, right? Fidelity has an allocation of 21 million shares, 13 million shares at E-Trade. Robinhood, for instance, has 12 million shares. So let's put all of that data in as well, too. So I did this, right? So factoring in the fact that TD Ameritrade has 53 million shares allocated to them by the DTC, but they owe 147 million shares, their shortfall is almost 95 million shares. Big problem for TD, right? Big problem for TD. Fidelity, for instance, they have 21 million shares, but they owe 68 million shares. Big problem for Fidelity, right? Again, Schwab, we don't know because we don't know what the DTC allocation for Schwab is. But for E-Trade, for instance, the allocation there is 13 million shares. They are short 44 million shares. That's a big problem for E-Trade. And if you look at a company like Robinhood, right? Robinhood owes like 9.5 million shares. Again, a problem for Robinhood. But if you look down here, let's look at Bank of Montreal, right? They've got an allocation of 481,000 shares, and they don't owe that much. They owe about 142,000 shares. That's not too much. They could actually, possibly take care of that. Bank of Montreal does not have a major problem. They have a problem, but they don't have a major problem. They don't have a problem like these guys have a problem. The problem these guys have is the reason, I believe, that FINRA panicked, right? But FINRA has to support all of their brokers, not just TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, right? These guys have a major problem because they owe so much more than their allocation. But they owe like 100 million shares, right? Whereas this guy owes more than it's allocated, right? It owes just a little bit more. And but it's short. It's short, just like that. So anyway, this is a finding that I kind of like came up with a while back. Just thought I'd share it. Not every broker is in the same boat, right? TD Ameritrade is in a very bad boat because they owe a lot of shares. They don't have the shares. They do have some shares. They have 53 million shares. That's a lot, right? They can literally pay out. If any one person asks for shares, they can send the shares to AST without a problem. If everybody asks for shares, they cannot send all of that to the AST, obviously, because they don't have that much shares. It just won't work. Fidelity, if any one person asks for shares, they can supply the shares. But if everyone asks for them, they don't have enough, right? That's the issue that is currently there. These guys are a little bit different, though. These guys, they just want to close their... They don't really want to be in this position where they owe shares. Well, no. These guys are in a very different boat than these guys. And these guys just want to solve their problem. And their problem is that they've got one or two short clients over there that has resulted in a fact that they owe a little bit more shares than they have. So those guys need to be closed out. And they want to close them out. Yeah, that's my current take on this. So this is what I see after breaking down the Rust race data per broker. The big problems are in the biggest brokers. The smaller brokers, anything below JP Morgan, I believe, who only who has something like, what is it? JP Morgan has something like 0.7% of all the shares reported, go to J.P. Morgan. They don't really have a major problem. They can deal with that. Yeah. TD Ameritrade has a problem. Fidelity has a problem. Charles Schwab has a problem. E-Trade has a problem. Those guys have the problem. But the smaller guys, they are in a very different boat. They just want to clear their books and move on with life, right? Scotiabank doesn't have 16,000 shares. I know people who have more than 16,000 shares of of MMTLP / Nextbridge Hydrocarbons, right? You probably do too. The fact of the matter is, it's these brokers are in a very different boat. They're in a very different camp than the TD Ameritrades of the world. Just wanted to let you know there. So there was a plus on the title of this presentation, because there's been developments in another space than MMTLP / Nextbridge Hydrocarbons that's very difficult to ignore, and that space is specifically the GTII and finger space, FNGR. So, how do I hear about GTII and finger? Let me start by saying I don't know much about them, but I do know that these two guys over here, William P. Ferrand and Ace in the Hole, have a lot to say about finger. They rely on Ham Shortkiller, who's on Twitter, and they've been going forward with the finger story, right? So this is and the GTI story, of course, right? But lately, in the last couple of weeks, finger has been a big deal, and this is finger motion stock from the last month or so, going back to June 14th, all the way to July 15th. It ended today at $5.80 in after hours. But way back around June 15th, as though it was $1.67, right? 1 month ago, it was $1.67. Today it ends the day at $5.70, and it just a few days ago it touched $7 for brief instances. Do we think that's a high? No, we don't think that's a high. I think that's so far it sounds like this is the start of a run in finger. They recently announced earnings today, and from I didn't read the earnings report. I just read the first page of the earnings report. The first page of the earnings report told me that there's almost 52 million common shares that were issued, right? So Finger Motion has 52 million shares that were issued. However, I mentioned this was a stock about rumors and speculation and all that. If you look at what Ham had to say, Ham believes that there's 160 million naked short shares to cover. Right? 160 million short shares. If that's the case, and there were only 52 million shares issued, there's more than 2 shares that, there's like 3 shares that were shorted for every share that was issued, right? That's a huge amount. Huge. Right? So, again, this could be the start of a very, very big run. Again, it's like all rumor and speculation right now. But the current rumor about Finger, of course, is that there are shorts who are way underwater, right? I mean, if you look, just a month ago, the stock was $1.60. Now it's $5.80. Those shorts have lost money if they maintain their short position, which I believe they did. So those shorts are underwater, and Ham has been exposing the fact that those shorts are underwater. William P. Ferrand and Ace in the Hole are also exposing that information. And rumors are that there's a large Asian buyer out there who is scooping up shares like crazy. Every time the shorts hammer down the price, which they have to avoid a margin call, they, this Asian buyer comes in and he just buys a ton of it, right? And he runs the price up. And when the price goes up sufficiently, he stops buying. And then the shorts come in and they have almost no choice, right, but to hammer the price down to avoid that margin call that they would get. So, it's, in essence, the Asian buyer is subsidizing his entry price based upon this short. That's just, I don't know, the short's in an insane position, right? I mean, they're in a position that, if true, which I think is, that there's no escape. They're just like barely trying to tread water, right? Again, 160 million naked short shares, 160 million, and the price is at 580 when a month ago it was at $1.60. That's a lot of money that they lost, and a lot of margin requirements that they're going to have to come up with. And if that price goes to something like, let's say the Asian buyer has bought as much shares as they're comfortable with, and they let the price go to $8 or $9 or $10, what happens then? Then that Asian buyer doesn't have to do anything, right? Because what happens is that the short gets a margin call. Once that margin call happens, they're forced to buy in by their broker, because their broker's not going to take it on the chin for them. So at that point, the price starts going up and ramping up like crazy. Where does it end? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But anyway, that's a story of Finger. The story of GTII is we've been waiting for a catalyst for GTII for a long time. Ham updated his estimate of how many shorts there are out there to be something like 400 million shorts in GTII, and the belief is that a lot of these people who might make a lot of money from Finger might, pour the money back into GTII, because Ham is again the guy who was talking about this stuff, right? He's a common source, right? And so if you followed whatever Ham was talking about with GTII, you might have followed whatever he was talking with Finger. And as a result, you might decide to, play the Ham card again, right? I don't know. I did not own any GTII since 2 days ago. And then I said, screw it. I'll just buy a little bit, because if the numbers are anywhere close to remotely being correct, the upside potential it's huge. It's huge. So you just buy a little, and then you get a huge upside potential, and I can take that upside potential and throw it right into GTII and make more money off that, if that works. That's the plan, at least. Who knows? Again, not a financial advisor. It's not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say. I'm going to keep this video short because, quite frankly, that's I'm going to keep the video short, right? I'm still recovering from COVID. So I'll talk to you later. Bye. I'll be closing the video up. Happy July 14th. Happy Bastille Day. Let me end by saying that I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is, of course, intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Goodbye.